Welcome to Doing Philosophy, where you learn to philosophize about the big ideas. Today, our conversation puts us back into studying philosophy. This time, the topic is how do you succeed? How do you go about taking a philosophy test? Now, this is very important if you're a college student and your grade is coming up, grade on a test, that is. So, how do you perform well? I say this because a lot of students find philosophy very, very difficult. And so one thing we'll say you have to study more, but another thing is to have a good understanding of the exams you're going to have. In particular, in this discussion, I want to have a conversation about objective tests. Because when you're taking a college course, you're going to have to engage some kind of performance. You're going to have to write an essay. You're going to have to take some objective tests, true, false, multiple choice. I am going to talk about the objective test. On another occasion, I'll dabble into essays, which I may have to do a couple of just recordings on essays. But often, a lot of students don't like to write so much. So when they're going to get an objective test, they think, oh, this is much better. And perhaps in some areas, in some other discipline, that's a good thing. Not so in philosophy, all right? Not so. So let's begin then. Focus on objective tests. In philosophy, objective tests are more difficult than essay exams. If I give you a multiple choice exam or a true false exam, in fact, I did this before in my class. I told some students this, they didn't want to listen. So I said, show of hand, anyone who can fail on command. That is, I will give you, this is what I told the students. You raise your hand, you participate, I write you down here, right? I'll give you in positive grade as deep as you fail. The lower you go, the higher grade. So if I give you this test and you get 0% on it and you answered all the questions now, I'm gonna give you 100% of the test. And 5 of them actually took me up on it. and I tried to tell them, there is when you have the intention of passing, it's just like having the intention to fail. Failure happened. People don't really choose to fail. It just happened to them. But if you are given the command to fail the test on command while you have to answer all the questions, guess what? You might end up passing. 3 of them end up passing. Imagine 5 people have the job to fail the test. Guess what? 3 of them end up passing. What does that mean? Those 3 people try to guess their way through the test. It was a lot of mixture, multiple choice, true, false. 3 of them pass. And why did it pass? Because to fail on command, you must know what the answer is. And this is what I'm talking about, knowing how to take a test, understanding the test philosophically. If you understand the test better, you'll be better prepared. If you can only fail on command if you know the answer, because if you're guessing, sometimes you pass, sometimes you fail. It's just a guess, accident, right? So let's look at those objective tests. I want to focus primarily on true, false, and multiple choice. Now, it seems contrary to reason to say that multiple choice would be more difficult in philosophy. And why is that? And that's because in philosophy, the ideas, the concepts are very meaningful for us. If we say determinism, that's a very meaningful concept. It has lots and lots of meaning. If you're going to look at happiness, you know there's a struggle with what it means, but if you're taking a philosophy course, you look at 2 philosophers use the word, you have to differentiate between them very carefully. If I give you a test and you have to study inductive argument and deductive argument, you cannot have the superficial definition. Those words, deduction, deductive reasoning, deductive analysis, those are very meaningful concepts. In other areas, they'll be just vocabulary words. For us, the vocabulary words is the essay. It is someone's career. Someone can spend the next 20 years diving deep into the concept of deduction. So you're in a world in which every word matters, every concept matters. And the one you're giving the greatest focus on is the one you're focused on right now. So if you understand that, then you're going to see that the first thing, the second thing here, if you try to use memory alone, you are going to fail in philosophy because memorization means you don't understand it. You have a very superficial understanding of the concepts. Here, the professor, here's the book giving you very rich meaning on free will, the meaning of life, the possibility of God's existence, and you have this very superficial understanding. That's called the definition. Definition is superficial understanding. You go into take an objective test in philosophy, that means you have already decided to fail. That's a sign you decided to fail. You don't choose, you decided because you chose to give just to try to memorize some definition. No philosophy course, no philosophy test is going to be just the definition. In other areas, that can be the case because they have different priorities. For us, the words are what we're good at. So if we're having a discussion about a concept, that means it has a lot of different subtle variations and meanings, which is what you need to do. So what you must do is take every concept in there, in that area. Yeah, you can begin with the memorization, right? That's the superficial. Memorization is superficial, the basics. That means you sat in the classroom, you read the book. That is nothing. Memorizing is nothing. All right, sorry to tell you that. This is philosophy, this reality, slap, slap, right? After you get some big concept memorized, then you try to understand the meaning, get into the philosophical side. Sometimes what the instructor gives you in class might not be enough. Go do some research. Go to the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy, for example, which is one of my go-to sites. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, another site that's really good. And go and read some of the deeper meaning of that concept you're studying. So memorizing is the beginning. Then you must act and go forward and do more. Now, the real thing is this. When you sit to take the test, everyone knows they have to study, but what does that mean? This is the real purpose of my talking here. Um, how do you know when you understand something? I do want to say something very important. When you're reading something, I'm going to pick up a philosophy book here. I'm reading some chapter. As I have the words, if I have the page in front of me, right? Both compatibilists and most of their critics agree that free actions, this is about free will. When you're reading, you understand the words because you speak the language. If this was in Spanish, no habla inglés, huh? No habla español, no, okay? So I wouldn't understand it. But you have the words in front of you, you understand the words. And some students think, I can read this stuff, I understand it. No, 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 no. You understand what's in front of you. True understanding for testing, for college purpose, for educational purpose, it must be up here. You understand what you're seeing because you've been conditioned to the language. Put the book down. Now explain compatibilism, okay, to me now without looking at the book. Excuse me, I put this book so it won't fall. If you can't explain it verbally, you did not understand it. Today, the language is called upload. You must upload the data up here. So understanding, when do you know you're understanding? Not when you're looking at it, not when so-called studying, which is maybe just memorizing, all right? That's the beginning, focusing, and then it uploads. And when you know it's uploaded, first of all, you can think with the concepts. If you are studying free will, it's arbitrarily open to that area. If you are studying free will, determinism, compatibilism, then when you can think about the problem in your head, you understand it, a certain degree of understanding at least. When you could think of the distinction between determinism and free will in your head, you have a certain understanding of it. If you cannot put the book down and think about it, you do not understand it, not for the purpose of education, not as a college student. All right. The difficulty, the studying is you first focus on the material. I'm looking at the book, I'm looking at what the professor puts on the board, I'm taking notes. That's the beginning. That's a basic introduction. And then you must be able to think about it. Every concept that you need to know, whatever area you're studying, you got to be able to think about it. If you can't think about it, then you do not understand. You're not prepared at all. You lie to yourself because you've memorized some things. You can't sit and think about it? You can. The second thing, you're able to talk about it. Can you explain determinism in your own words? You cannot, then you don't understand it. Oh, I know it. No, you don't know it. You can't explain from your mouth, you don't know it. You talk about when you were reading, because you understand the reading. That's what you understand. You understand the symbols. It is not your personal understanding yet. It's not your understanding. It is the book's understanding, and you understand those symbols. So when you understand it, you can talk about it. You can explain your own words. And if you cannot, then you don't understand enough. Maybe you have a vague understanding. Can you think about it and you can't talk about it? No. Try again. Try another excuse. The next thing is that even though you're going to be taking objective tests, your real ability to be prepared is to be able to write those concepts down, write those definitions down. So if you can think about it, you can talk about it, you should be able to write it out. Write out the meaning of determinism. Write out what free will means to you, or the problem of free will. Just give some example, right? This is, if you can't write about it at all, you can't talk about it, you can't even think about it, you don't understand. What is studying? What is studying? Not just for my philosophy class, studying in college. What is studying? You are hearing information from the professor. You're seeing illustrations in the classroom with video, things on the whiteboard, and you're reading a textbook of some sort, or you're reading online. Your mind becomes familiar with that information. At a certain point, and this is Alan McPhee's interpretation now of studying, at a certain point when you immerse, the thing uploads. I'm just using the word upload because it's so modern, you can understand what I'm saying. It goes to the brain, dish, in a way such that it locks on. You can remember it. You could be walking down the sidewalk going to lunch, and you could think about, oh man, this idea of free will is kind of crazy. What did David Hume mean by free will like this? When you can think about those things, that information is uploaded. And at first it's a small amount, then more and more, and then you can think about the whole topic. You can think about the whole topic. When that has occurred, you have reached understanding. It's your understanding. Even if you don't remember all the vocabulary words, once you understand the theory, you're good to go in most tests. In objective tests, you're good to go. Because the minute you have your understanding, your vocabulary, you can work those things out. And that's when, after you have that understanding of the general nature of that area up here, now you could memorize certain concepts that are not fully uploaded, but it help part of your machinery of knowledge as you go take that test. And you can look at any philosophy test with this process, any philosophy test with the intention of acing the test. All right. One last thing I want to say before we go. The way you study, like I had the textbook there, you read a little bit, you think about it. Read a little bit, think about it. That's the way I study philosophy. I read a little bit, what the heck that mean? Like my head goes up in the sky, I'm trying to think, sometimes it takes a long time to get anywhere. But when I do this process and think about it a little bit, it's uploading faster. So by the time I get way down the chapter, I still remember some of it up here already. When I comprehend the entire chapter, I can think about the whole thing from beginning to end. Not all the detail, but all the generalities. And if I need to go a particular area, I could go right to that area. This is what you need to do if you want to perform well, if you want to do well on your tests. The objective tests are more difficult than essays, but if you engage in this process, you can sit and write any essay you want. It is easier to do essay exams in philosophy, supposing at least you have the basic understanding. When you're doing the objective test, once you get the ideas there, you need to be able to compare and contrast them in your head. Think about which philosopher said this in your head. Just review things inside your mind without looking at the material in front of you. This is foolproof. So that's all I have for today. Thank you for joining me on the site. If you like what you're hearing, please hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. I'm going to continue the series to help support students who are taking college classes. So share this with your friends and let them make a buzz around this business. All right. And remember, well, you probably don't even know this because I don't sit in this series. I do have a talk about saying I'm your favorite philosopher, but I'll let that go. Right. Another thing, as I'm leaving, I'm really leaving right now for real. One thing you can also do, especially when looking at something on the video, is replay it a couple of times, review it a couple of times until things stick with you. All right. Until next time. Oops, I'm about to say may the force be with you. Wrong movie.